So if you've watched any of my other videos, you may already know that I am blessed to have a friend who is 109 years old. That's crazy, right? To live to 109, and it's really wonderful being able to have a relationship with a person who is that age and shares such amazing wisdom. So recently, I took a friend of mine who's a middle-aged woman whose name is Sharon. I took Sharon to go visit Mrs. Cousins. And needless to say, Sharon was enthralled about her and was really excited about what she might learn from somebody with this much life experience and sagacity. So, in the course of our conversation, Sharon asked Mrs. Cousins a number of questions that generated some really interesting answers, and so I thought that I would share. So one of the questions Sharon asked Mrs. Cousins was whether she was satisfied with her life. Was she, as she reaches the end, what we assume to be near the end of it, is she happy with the choices that she's made, with where the life she has lived has landed her in terms of her spirit, in terms of the quality of her life and how it leaves her feeling. And so Mrs. Cousin said, yes, she's very pleased with her life. She feels really good about the choices that she's made, and she's very much at peace. And so Sharon asked her something to the effect of, how is it that she lived that has caused her to arrive after 109 years at a place where she has so much peace? And so, that being a pretty deep question, Mrs. Cousins thought about it for a minute. So she looked off and then she started twiddling her thumbs. She twiddles her thumbs like this. And having had enough conversations with her, I'm quite confident that twiddling your thumbs in this way, catch the motion, right, is the secret of making it to 109 years old. You got it? All right, takes a little coordination. So anyhow, she twiddled her thumbs and then she came back and said, well, she said, I love God. She said, I had a wonderful husband. She said, I've loved. I've been loved. She said, I've had good friends. She said, I've tried to be generous. She said, I've been kind. And she said, I've traveled quite a bit, which has brought her a lot of joy. And then she said she's helped others. And there may have been another thing or two on the list. That's the list that I retained, so perhaps those are the things that were the most meaningful to me. And and so she said yes, she's happy with her life and living in that way helped her arrive at this place at 109 years old. And so Sharon and I found the conversation really, in a way, kind of moving because you could, as she was running down her list, or as I repeat the list and run down it, you can kind of make a little checklist. You can say, check, check, I do that pretty well. I need to do a little work in that area. And kind of see how you're doing and how often do you have an opportunity to find out, in some ways, the secret of life from somebody who has had such a long experience with life. How often do you get to know if you're on the right path when you're along your way? We're so caught up in the events of our lives, it's oftentimes difficult to know how we're doing. And so as she ran down this list, we both found it very helpful. And we were struck by the fact that in many ways the list is so simple. These are not things that most of us don't already know. Um, Many of them are biblical or spiritual. They transcend religions. And so the list is so simple in some ways, but often so difficult to attain. So it's so simple on the one hand, yet complex on the other hand. And we were also struck by what was not on the list. And what was not on the list kind of harkens back to something that she and her 90-something-year-old cut buddies tell a group of women that my friend Jackie gathers occasionally into a wisdom circle of intergenerational women. And so in that group, they are constantly telling us that we are very consumed with stuff, with things, and that we need not be, and that our overemphasis upon things makes it difficult to relax. And then additionally to that, they keep sharing with us that we also should not judge the circumstances of our lives, because just as things change in meaning to us over time, so the circumstances of our lives change in how we interpret them. And so the way that we interpret something now may not be the way in which we interpret it in the future. So Sharon and I found these ideas extremely helpful, and I hope that you do too. Thank you.